Hello, humans. This is Corey. I wanted to tell you about this beautiful and sacred upcoming retreat we have this year. The problem is, for most of us, it's really difficult for us to have moments and periods of stillness long enough to have meaningful spiritual and emotional experiences. I knew exactly what it felt like growing up to be in emotional suffering and not have the guide that I needed to be able to heal and improve my life. What's so powerful about these retreats is not only are they an access point to stillness and connection with the group, but they are an access point to deeper healing and deeper spiritual experiences like you've never experienced. These have had a huge impact in my life and have helped me go deeper. They have truly changed the landscape of me and my family's life as I've come home with greater light and understanding and love. We want you to join us this year on this beautiful retreat. Send us a message. Go to theemotionalblueprint.com and send us a message on that website, and we will send you more information. You can also go to originswellness.org, and all the information is on that website again. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
Acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the Emotional Blueprint.
I want to share this little story that's been pressing as we've been talking about this. So I remember when I was living in Ireland, it was late and we knocked on this guy's door. It was when I was a missionary, and he opened the door and we could see darkness in his house. It actually physically was dark, but he was in the darkness and we could see spiritual darkness. It's hard to describe. It's the best way I can describe it is like when he opened the door, we felt this heavy energy just come from the house. And he immediately let us in. And as we started talking to him, he told us that his wife had just died like 2 weeks before. And we tried to share some. Our job was to share these messages of hope and based on Christian values and stuff. And I don't know how much that was actually helpful for him in the moment. But as we got to know him better, what was so inspirational to me about this man, and I was 20 years old at the time. And as we started to get to know this man better, he was like 70. And I never thought that a 70-year-old would turn into one of my best friends. Because what I saw in him was real inspiration for me as a 20-year-old, which was I knew he was suffering. I knew he was going through it. But he would take plenty of time to be intentional at showing kindness and giving us rides in the vehicle, making us food, making us hot chocolate, just showing up at our door, hey, what's on the docket today? It's like, what? Dude, aren't it was this great example that, and he wasn't avoiding his pain either. We can only sit in pain when something like that, we can only feel maybe a certain amount every day, and process some of that every day. What's good to do in that other time? Well, to get lost and trying to develop this pure love. And so
Mm-hmm.
He always comes to my mind when I think of like not seeking. His name is Tom. He's a special person when it comes to not seeking our own. And so what he experienced is a true principle that even when we're struggling, as long as we're addressing our struggling first, we don't want to avoid it, because then helping other people actually becomes the wrong thing to do. When we put it in front of our own healing and whatever, then that's not good. But as long as we're taking time for us and doing what we need to do to address what we need to, the gift of focusing on other people is somehow our own problems and the intensity of a lot of the weight of that naturally starts to go away. I don't understand it. I just know it's a real thing.
I think it's magic.
I know you're not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about that.
I don't understand how that works, to be honest.
It is magic.
It reminds me, I had the same kind of a thing. Like, well, it was I served a mission as well, and I was in Cambodia. And I don't know why, but I was tasked with helping a new missionary who was from that country. Well, he was from Vietnam, but we were in Cambodia at the time, and he was really new, but he was 5 years older than me, maybe 6 years older than me. And, out there in that culture, it's a really big thing to be older than the person teaching you. At least he felt that way. And it must have been a weekend, we had an argument where he just didn't see eye to eye with the way that we did things. And I was like, that's fine, let's go talk about it. So we went home, and right when we get home, he just starts unloading on me, just screaming at me and calling me everything you can imagine, every mean thing you could think of. He just ripped me to pieces, told me how bad of a person I was, how ashamed he was of being around with me doing this work, and all the things that really mattered to me. He laid them all out there. He didn't hold back at all. And I had this really strong feeling that I just needed to let him get it out. And so everything in me wanted to say something back and defend myself with what he was saying. And I proudly said, I didn't say anything back. I just sat there holding back tears pretty much the whole time. And it was about 30, 40 minutes that this person was screaming at me.
30 minutes. Wow.
It was a long time. And
wow.
There's more context as to why he's not a horrible person or anything. He ended up having undiagnosed anger management issues. We didn't know that at the time. So he was just laying into me. And it got to a point where I could tell he was running out of things to say, and I didn't know how much more I could handle. So I just said, hey, this might not be the spirit, the vibe or the spirit that we're looking for to have a good, productive conversation. I was like, I'm going to take a few moments to myself and I'll come back. And he attacked me with a pair of scissors. And it's funny now, but where I'm getting at with this is I immediately went to the next room over, locked the door for my own safety, and just collapsed on the floor, bawling my eyes out. I was just crying because it was really hard to let that happen.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether or not I did the right thing. And I started crying and I prayed and was like, was that what you wanted me to do? Because that was really hard to do. And I felt this comfort, this warm blanket feeling around me. And once, I felt that, I felt this responsibility to love him more. It was a very weird feeling because I initially, when I could tell right away that I had these thoughts like, maybe this isn't going to work out. I don't think he likes me. I think he really hates me. And after praying and everything, I had this feeling like there's more to, I think we're supposed to there's an opportunity here for something. And we ended up figuring out everything that he needed medically and everything. And our mission president actually kept us together after that incident. He's like, no, you guys are going to keep doing what you're doing. And I started doing things for him. I started finding things that he liked. I started doing these little forms of service for him. And the amount of love that we created as friends through that, it was something I didn't think was possible. And that's where I'm talking about that magic, that I didn't know if we were going to be friends. I didn't really technically want to be his friend because he tried to attack me. I didn't really see him as a friend. I just knew he needed someone to try for him. And we became like best friends for the rest of that time that I was there. And I don't know how that happened. It shouldn't have happened. The way that he didn't like me and how I felt after that, I don't know how we became friends like that. But we were very, very close and able to laugh and joke and do all sorts of things together. And
that is such a powerful and beautiful story, man. It's really loaded with some gems. We should talk about this. This is really cool. Very, very kind of like, to me, it's like a sacred story.
Yeah.
And okay, so you endure, you suffer long, you accept that this is what the situation needs. And then you seek some kind of wisdom or answer. Like, is this what you wanted me to do? How do you interpret this, like this warm feeling? People always make fun of me how I say warm. I don't know.
That was good.
Okay. Warm feeling. What does that mean?
It was like, so I was, just to paint a picture of how I was feeling, I locked the door after that, run out of the room, lock the door.
With scissors.
I'm like hyperventilating, shaking, like afraid. I fall on my knees and I'm like just hyperventilating, crying, like, what the heck? Like, that was the hardest. I didn't even defend myself. Like, I know how, but I didn't. And I knew I shouldn't have defended myself in that moment. And that was so hard. And so I prayed and was like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Was that what you wanted me to do? And all that stopped. Like when you're really cold outside and then you get a hot cup of cocoa or something and you take that first drink and it just feels like this warm river coming through your body. That was the feeling that I got, and it stopped. The shaking, like scared feeling that I had just turned into calmness.
So you felt this comfort and this calmness.
Yeah.
Do you interpret that as an answer to your question and your prayer?
I do.
What was that answer that you got?
I was proud of you. You did the right thing.
It's so meaningful to attach these positive emotions, to attach words to them. They don't often arrive in the form of words. They obviously arrive in the form of a feeling. My experience is if we look at it, they also are made up of words too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really, I think you're spot on. You would know obviously more than me, but that really was cool. And so maybe a little bit of a spiritual lesson for people listening, that when you have a quote spiritual experience, when you have quote any positive emotions that come up, try to ask yourself, what words does this say? What is, not just what does this mean, but what words would come from this? That can kind of be a complete integration of feeling and I guess it's like, thoughts or whatever.
Yeah. And I
Like, yeah,
I want to be like,
it was like, yes, you did. Yeah. The answer to your question from that feeling was like, yes, like you were supposed to do that.
And it was like, I know how hard that was, and that's why a good job. And the thing that I want to like be really clear about, it wasn't about me like doing the right things or anything like that. It's just think about, with the knowledge that I had at that time, before we knew about his anger issues, if I would have dealt with that the way that I thought, or the way I naturally would have dealt with that, it would not have helped him at all.
Nope.
And I did the one thing he probably has never seen. And it just so happened to be exactly what he needed in order to understand what he was dealing with. And I'm really just grateful of that he wouldn't have seen what he was dealing with if I would have just treated him the way I wanted to.
If you would have reacted.
If I would have reacted, like, yeah, like the way that I was fighting that whole time, it would have just made it worse for him or not helped him.
Silent understanding is really powerful. What's more important than speaking is listening. That is for me. I need that more for me. But it's so true in relationships. What's more important than speaking is listening. Look at it sounds so simple, but you just had this attunement, this moment where you were just not reacting. And this is a perfect segue, man, into the next one, which is a really, really important part of this deep love, which is not easily provoked.
Mm-hmm.
This story was such a beautiful example of he that is slow to react is of great understanding. Any fool in that moment can react. Fools react. Wisdom is slow to react. I love the other, like, he that is hasty in spirit exalteth folly. Basically, he that is quick. This is one of my weaknesses. He that is quick to respond or react makes a lot more mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, why does not being quick to react, why does that have such a profound impact on our relationships?
Sometimes we say things we don't mean or don't think about before we let them come out of our mouths. And then if you react to something like that, you can make more problems for everyone.
I love this visual of, let's say we were to get into a gnarly fight right now.
Just start duking it out.
Which I can't even imagine with you because you're a spiritual teacher. Anytime you get into a fight with a spiritual teacher, rest assured it is your fault. Okay, so I love the visual of this. So let's say going back to your story. So I love the visual of you saying some aggressive, negative things towards me, let's say, in the situation. Those negative thoughts are going to first enter the frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm quick to react, I'm going to react from the space of thinking or mind, which is the most surface part of who we are. And in spirituality, this is in Christian philosophy or spirituality, this is symbolic of Satan or evil. So when we are quick to react, we are actually acting from a possessive or evil space, you could say. So negativity first enters in, and if we are slow and patient to react, then it actually will begin to filter down, and we can now respond from a place of like spirit,
truth.
Yep. And actually it's like thought, then emotion. And, that's not great to respond from that. It depends on what the emotion is. If it's compassion, great. If it's anger though, no. We have to let it we have to be slower. We have to let it marinate even further. And then boom. So that is such a beautiful example of just being slow to react. And what it is, it's almost like a meditation. You have to refocus because it's like, I can't believe this. As soon as they say that, the natural reaction is like, I can't believe this a-hole is saying those things. Like that's mind. And then it goes a little deeper and I'm like, wow, the rudeness from this man is insane. Like I'm feeling
he's bubbling up.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then let it deepen further and see if you can be very present. And it's a constant refocus. Like, okay, the thoughts coming up of this guy's being really rude. Okay, refocus. Okay, the anger's there. Refocus. Oh, that stuff is able to be on the sideline for a moment. Responding from this gentle, authentic place. I'm saying this like I'm good at it. I'm not. I just have seen this happen occasionally for me. I see it obviously you're a way better example at this than I am, but I've seen this happen for people. It is a spiritual gift. It's a spiritual gift that anyone can practice and develop. It's the spiritual gift of temperance, balance, the ultimate temperance and balance. So it's a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times balance and temperance is letting something sink in a little bit deeper. And the slowness of that.
It's hard to do.
It's so hard.
I can attest. It's very hard.
But that is, you will never forget that story. I don't think I'm ever going to forget that story that you told just now.
Yeah.
Because that encapsulates. Look what happened when you were slow to react. You became of great understanding, but then what happened is you became a mirror. You didn't allow the quick thought reaction and you didn't allow the anger reaction. And so what you actually became for him was a mirror, and he saw what he was doing and he wanted to stab you with scissors.
He tried.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
He saw himself. He's like, oh my gosh, like this is all me. And that pissed him off. And then obviously afterwards he became even like, and what's cool, what else happened? I know I'm kind of going off on this story. It's such a beautiful story. He then began to actually respect you.
We became very close.
He didn't respect, isn't that interesting? He didn't respect you before. He didn't respect you before, but just based on how you responded and how you acted, he started to respect you. And it allowed you guys to be able to develop a more equal, not a king-servant relationship, because he thought he was above you, but he more of an equal.
Yeah.
The power of not responding. I think of any spiritual teacher is a great example. The core element of a spiritual teacher, or a shaman, a spiritual teacher, a guide, a Christ figure, is what is weaved in all of these great spiritual teachers and guides is they are all slow to react. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Jesus, to name a few. It's intact with all of them, actually. So, and you, of course, modern day.
That was a special one-off event.
It wasn't, but that's fine. Any other thoughts on that? Slow to react is not easily provoked. I want to just, this Christ story I think is so powerful. When I just want to wrap up with this, and this is as we switch topics. So one of my favorite stories in the story of Christ is when the woman is brought to him who is caught in adultery in the very act. The accusers throw her on the ground in front of Jesus, and they say, in the law of Moses, such should be stoned. Like, Master, we caught this woman in adultery in the very act. In the law of Moses, it says that such should be stoned. And then they say, what sayest thou? What do you say to that? How does Christ respond? He doesn't say anything. He actually like draws his finger
he starts
in the
drawing
sand,
in the sand.
like almost as like a symbol of your approach and how you're approaching this is not cool, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but he's slow to react. So he doesn't react from a space of mind. He doesn't react from a space of anger, right? Like we could even say like, I don't know if, he doesn't react from a place of frustration or anger. He lets it sink deep. And then what he says is one of the most powerful things that I believe he says, which he says, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at this woman. Can you imagine saying one thing that just silences 10 people who are like, so, and how was he able to say that? Well, it's because it came from a place of depth and truth, because he let it
ruminate,
let it go down.
Yeah.
So such a great, it's not just about waiting for that to happen. I think we have to kind of seek. I think what's cool about this story you shared about you weren't just passively sitting there. To some degree you were, but you were actually seeking in the background. You were like, help me, maybe even like, help me to respond the right way. Or I want to, you were seeking a good response.
Yeah.
No matter what happens to me, I am going to do good. I'm going to choose good. I'm going off a little bit, man. Any other thoughts?
I was just thinking about that story. Like,
that's my favorite story you've ever shared with me. Ever.
Oh, that one?
that is my favorite story that you've ever shared with me, personally and on the podcast.
It's kind of it's a sacred one for me, because it's one of those times where, like, it's awesome in retrospect that I ended up doing the right thing, but it was one of the only times that I was doing the right thing, and I knew I was doing I knew it, that I was doing the right thing. Like, I was sitting there, like, white knuckle, clasping my hands together, like elbows on the desk, listening to him yell at me. And the only thing that kept coming into my head was, let him talk. Let him, allow him. And I was like physically holding myself back. And I knew how hard that was for me. I don't know how to explain that. Like,
yeah.
It was not that I was just being good. Someone, the Spirit was telling me to do something, and I was giving my all to perform that for him. It was for him to have his experience. So it was like, it was really hard. And also, I was, just to comment on that, on the Jesus story, it's like a social power move to do what he did. Like, oh, you're super mad, you got your hands full of rocks already? Like, you already maybe roughed her up on the way here? And he's like, and he just looks away and doesn't even give them the attention. It's like, this isn't about what you just said. this is coming from a different place. I don't react to this from you. I just think that that's such a power move. He was just like, all right, I hear you. I go sit in the corner while I think. And he like goes and does his thing and starts drawing on the ground. And these are people who have power over other people. They were the Pharisees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done whatever they wanted technically, but it was a test to see how he would react, to see how he would handle that situation. They were almost trying to get him to react almost every time with these types of situations.
I love that you said that, man, because the Christ story is such a powerful example of like, how do we influence other people? All of us are very interested. Any of us that are in a relationship, people seem very interested in influencing their partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to influence their partner.
Yeah.
And kind of a theme today, well, how do I best influence somebody that... How do I best help someone change? How can I help my girlfriend or my boyfriend? How can I best help someone to change? You be a good example. And when necessary, you use words. We're talking about the magic. I believe the magic of this is, can I be a mirror? When someone is overreacting, when someone is being aggressive, when someone is acting critical or negative, the goal of non-reaction, we become the mirror. It's funny because our reaction mentally says, you need to tell them that they're mistreating you. You need to stand up for yourself. Dude, it's such a BS. I'm not saying don't stand up, but that is a BS. That's a deceptive narrative coming from a place of thought. Mm-hmm. And that's not the way to do it. The way that we be the mirror, be the neutral. Let them see it from you. And I think that's kind of the magic that we're talking about. So, man, that's such a good reminder, I think, for all of us in our relationships, is seeking non-reaction, slowing to react. It's not just for me. I don't just maintain my integrity or my patience, but it is the best way to show someone what they're doing. Mm-hmm. The most powerful way. Love it. So cool. So, dude, I read this in my Native American book, and I thought it had an impact. It's had an impact on me. Mm-hmm. And I think goes in really well with like wrapping up this whole like deep love, developing that, having that impact our relationships. So I'm going to share this. It says, but the old Lakota was wise. He knew that man's heart away from nature becomes hard. He knew that the lack of respect for growing living things soon led to the lack of respect for humans too. So he kept his children close to nature's softening influence. What really has stuck out to me is like, we live in a hardened world, especially the corporate world and the relationship world is very like cutthroat and like hardened and hard. Mm-hmm. And so I like to view our soul as like clay that when something difficult happens, if we don't do anything, the clay of our soul becomes harder and more dry. And that means that we're not as easily affected or influenced by things. Now, some people think that might be really good because I'm not going to be as easily affected or influenced by pain. It's like, that's kind of true. Mm-hmm. But it also means you're not going to be as affected or influenced by like love and goodness and being able to share in the joy of other people's accomplishments and things that we've been talking about. So if we want, a general theme of if we want to have more love in our relationships, we need to put ourselves in a position consistently to be like softened. This clay needs to stay soft so it can shift and change according to the circumstance.
Right.
I love this idea of, so nature is a really beautiful way that we can experience this like softening. Any form of pure spiritual practice can do that. Meditation, prayer, reading, meaningful things, So am I being softened in my life as time goes on? Or am I becoming hardened? That has nothing to do with what happens to us in our life. It has everything to do with where I turn to for softening and, the spiritual practice.
It's kind of a beautiful like image too. When you say, where do I turn to for softening? Neglecting that and moving away from that, it hardens and dries out. When you look inward to feed that or nurture that, then it stays alive and moldable, just in line with the Buddhist way of inward, not outward. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, I love your thoughts on that. Yeah, it is cool. So, and then it reminds you of kind of what we were chatting a little bit about before the podcast, which was that, if a woman or a man, if they just don't do anything, if they are just very passive, inevitably what's going to happen in life is difficult things are going to happen. They are going to become hardened if they just don't do anything. So I think what we were talking about was this kind of thing, this statement of the inclination of the natural man is to head into a downward momentum. It's the fall of man. The natural man heads into this downward momentum, this hardening because of things that happen to them in their life, and they don't know how to deal with it or respond to it. And it has to be counteracted with intentional, consistent effort and spiritual focus. So, and if we do that, we can stay soft and gentle and malleable, and we can change in our relationships. It's just one of my favorite things about our friend Kimberly. She's always been such a beautiful example. She is so easily affected. I'll say, and I mean this in the best way, she is such a good example of this, because I'll say one little thing. I remember on one of the podcasts, she was talking about the root system of trees and how they connect. And I said something so just simple that came to my mind as she was saying, oh, that reminds me of what I believe heaven is. And just instant tears in her eyes. And it makes you feel pretty important and important to her. But she always comes to my mind when I think of somebody that's just such a good example of letting others affect you. And we have a really hard time doing that. Yeah. The wisdom that comes with I've learned from my pain. So I naturally have this wisdom of knowing who is safe and is the right person.
Yeah.
That's what we learn if we soften and we face our pain, like we were talking about earlier. We gain this wisdom of doing it with the right people. But then, if they pass our test of safety and genuine and authentic, then letting them affect us is beautiful part of life.
It's part of being childlike.
Yes.
You just have the wisdom to not be so innocent, with the people that you're around. You can't just treat everybody that way. I like that you said that, like, you have the wisdom to know who will and won't be good influences or hurt you in that way. And I mean, as best you can. And then you let that person affect you. I think that that's so good.
It is, man. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's one of the greatest benefits that you have seen in your life as you have gone through this intentional healing journey? It's one of the greatest benefits that you have noticed.
I think one of the greatest ones is I really care about people. Like, I care about how they feel. I care about people being happy, and I want to help people feel more of that. I think it's just like love. I think I feel love on a greater scale than I have before in my life.
Is that an experience that is pretty specific to you?
I don't think so.
To some degree, yes, but generally speaking, no. This is what pain is, a hole in our soul, and that pain gets dug out or, healed from or whatever. Now we have room, the natural evolution of what then replaces that, what goes in that place. Well, it's a bunch of trees, or in other words, it's people and caring about people. Instead of me needing to focus more on me, it's a natural progression it's very natural that now my attention starts to focus more on others and loving others or helping others, or
just your attention goes to others, like way more than it did before.
It's the hero's journey. It's the natural thing that happens of the hero's journey. A hero is somebody that I think most people would totally love to be called a hero by someone in their life. I think that's such a cool label. Mm-hmm. I definitely have heroes in my life. It's a culmination of many people, for sure, including you. And what's cool about a hero is they go through this phase of refusing the call. They go through this phase of not accepting their situation. They avoid it. Mm-hmm. And then they have to learn, this isn't the way to happiness. This leads to destruction or hardening. And then they eventually gain the wisdom to address their pain, address what they need to, whatever. And then that comes all the strength from this grit, this wisdom, this power, then to fulfill their divine purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I love the natural order of balance in my life first, then healing and facing my stuff, then that leading to purpose. And this is the path that you are on and that we're both on, is fulfilling our purpose. I want to talk a little bit about that. I think that'd be cool. Any other thoughts though on what we're chatting about? Okay. Powerful book. If you are interested, it's a book. It's dense. It is very deep. It's called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's an amazing book. I'm only 70 pages in, but I'm pretty blown away. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. What type of book? Story?
A lot of stories, a lot of deep principles, but it's kind of through ancient symbols and stories, the natural path of the hero's journey, basically.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of cool. I want to share one thing from it. So what happens when someone is not open to their purpose? What happens when someone refuses the call more than once, like repeatedly? I want to ask you that question because I feel like I've had this experience. It's mostly been unintentional, and I think it probably is for most people because the hints of your purpose, are they coming from your thoughts? I guess they can to some degree, but they come from this deeper place of spirit and emotion and that. If you need more motivation of why it's so important to have a spiritual connection and to be receiving knowledge from a spiritual source, it's so that you can know what your purpose is on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So let's like, what happens? He obviously talks about this a little bit, but I think it's just a good question. What happens when somebody refuses their call or their purpose, intentionally or not intentionally?
I don't know. Maybe.
Kind of what's like the negative effect of like just not following our path that is laid out.
Just get lost.
I think of this visual of pain creating a hole. And it's very natural for that to start to be filled with compassion and love, but it still to some degree is, we have to want to go that direction. It is to some degree a choice. It is a choice. I have seen people that have completely cleared out their pain or have a fresh start from their past, but they don't fill that hole in with anything. It's like that's what they wanted and that's like enough for them. And I think generally what I've noticed is you begin to feel empty. You're just like, your day-to-day is just not filling you. There's just this numbness to your life. Almost kind of like, I'm not just like, not getting lit up anymore. I'm not, I was talking to one of my clients who's in his late 50s and he's done all the right things in his life. He's a good boy, a good man. He's done everything he was supposed to. He went to college, he graduated college, he got this good job, and he stayed diligent at his job. He's climbed the corporate ladder, you could say. And in the back of his mind, he believed that if he achieved where he, like the CEO status or, the CFO status or whatever, that he would feel this fulfillment. Now he's there. And he's like, Corey, I can't believe how unfulfilling this is. Like I'm not unhappy, but I'm definitely not happy. I'm just like in this purgatory. This middle ground. So what's his name? Joseph Campbell says is refusal of the summons converts the adventure into its negative. Walled in boredom, the subject loses the power of significant affirmative action. So we start to lose motivation and becomes a victim to be saved. His flowering world becomes a wasteland of dry stones, and his life feels meaningless. Whatever house he builds, it will be a house of death. All he can do is create new problems for himself and await the gradual approach of his disintegration.
That's heavy.
Really powerful stuff. I just want to contrast that with, okay, what happens when somebody does accept the call and go down this path of purpose, even though you may not be on your path, even though you might not fully have fulfilled your purpose, whatever that is or whatever. What are some of the, but I know that you are on your path And I know that you know that. And so I'm curious what your experience is. Like, how do you feel? What does that feel like? Just knowing that you're on the path.
It's a lot less worry. I don't have to think so much as I get to do more. Less thinking, a lot more doing. I'm no less tired. I don't feel like I've got an abounding amount of energy or anything, but it's because I'm doing more with my life. I'm filling the space with things, and it actually feels really good to have things to do and that you plan for. And
I think that is the biggest shift that I've noticed in you, and that I see in so many people and in myself, is the motivation is strong. Like we wake up, not every day, but most days, like I'm on a mission, and this mission is of great importance. And this mission involves me using my gifts in a way that I know is gonna have an impact on other people. I can maybe be, to some degree, somebody's hero. And there is something eternal about that. That doesn't go away. That isn't forgotten. When we die, what do we take with us? Well, we know we can't take our money. We know we can't take our possessions. We know we can't take our house, whatever. So what do we take with us?
Wisdom, purpose, experience.
Yeah. Relationships, wisdom, and memories. We remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, how do there's going to be some skepticism. Are they just saying these things because they sound good? You can ask yourself, listener, these questions. Like, what do I really take with me when I die? What really matters for me to focus on? You can have these spiritual feelings confirm the truth of what we're saying, that you really do take your social relationships beyond, and those three things that we said. There might be more than that, but those are three things that stick out. Mm-hmm. So, of course, everyone's purpose, deeper purpose, is going to involve those three things.
Yeah.
Impacting relationships, gaining more wisdom, and having good experiences, affecting people. I just think that's a cool. So again, he has powerful words here. What happens? What's the shift of what happens to us when we do accept the call and we are on our path? The protective power is always and ever present within the sanctuary of the heart, and even imminent within. So in Christianity, they call this like the Spirit is with you. The Spirit is your guide. In Buddhism, they might say, well, the Buddha is with you, or the Buddha is guiding you. The light is guiding you. Whatever words you want to use, it doesn't matter. But when you are on your path, you're being supported by something greater than yourself. Your purpose is not about you. It is so much bigger than you. It involves other people. It might just involve one other person. It doesn't matter the amount of people, but it's bigger than you for everyone. Mm-hmm. Very confident in that. Not just because I've personally experienced it. I've just seen that in too many people. So it makes sense. The protective power is always and ever present within the sanctuary of the heart, and even imminent within. One has only to know and trust, and the ageless guardians will appear. That's super cool. I love that visual of, again, Christianity is maybe more angels, but these ageless, like, spirits or guides, these spirit guides.
Mm-hmm.
We start to have more support because they're in it too. They don't have a physical body, but they definitely want to be a part of this like great work.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Like, there is no way that these people who live their entire lives fully dedicated to their purpose to help other people or to teach people or to spread a word or whatever, that when they die, they're less enthused about what they did. I don't think so. I think they're even more enthusiastic about their purpose with a culmination of all their memories and all the knowledge of what they did and how they get to see how that affected others. Some of that stuff is just, our beliefs in Christianity, but a lot of that isn't. A lot of people, you have to believe that some of that goes somewhere.
I think that's pretty universal, man.
Yeah.
Anyone that's interested in tapping into that.
And that's really what that is talking about, is those who have already made it past that mortal, stopping point and then picked up that same thing on the other side of whatever that looks like. They are just as enthusiastic that you're doing your purpose. And I'm sure that there is a lot of support that will be there for you when you're trying to fulfill your purpose.
One of my good friends just died not too long ago, year and a half ago ish, and year and a half ago. And I've shared with you that I've never felt more connected to her since she died. And I saw this glimpse of her zeal and her like excitement, almost like, I don't think there's anything particular. It's not about me in my life, but I had this glimpse and felt that she like pleaded with the source or God, like, please let me be a part of Corey's like purpose or his life.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it has nothing to do with me and it's not me, but it's greater. All of our purposes, if we're on the path, is greater than us. It's like, of course people want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like if they're granted access or granted special influence on you, man, they cannot wait. Like, please, I want to just like be there. I want to feel the joy of this path that this person's on. It's like going and doing something. It's like, I love what he talks about it, like an adventure. It's like, of course, if you're going on a cool adventure, you're like, hey, I got tickets to like Vietnam and we're going to take motorcycles and it's all paid for. It's free. Like, and you have work off. I took it off for you. Like, you coming? We're not going to be like, nah. We're going to be like, oh my, like, we're going to be so pumped. We're going to
be stoked for that. Yeah.
We're going to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I can't talk about trips.
That is going to happen.
And not do it. So what else he says is one has only to know and trust, and the ageless guardians will appear. So that's like a promise. One has only to know and trust that there is these spirit guides, whatever that means to you, whatever that they will appear and they will be there. Having responded to his own call and continuing to follow courageously as the consequences unfold, the hero finds all the forces of the unconscious at his side. Mother Nature herself supports the mighty task.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Go ahead, Dane.
Mother Nature. That's yeah, I don't know. It's like a law, right?
It is a law. I believe it's a universal law.
Yeah.
Now, whether someone is seeing that or believing that or not is, if you see it and you believe it, more power. You can be more intentional at using Mother Nature, God, whatever, to like enhance your purpose. I wouldn't say change it, but influence it heavily.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's been like a thing for me lately as I'm on my path. Like, I want to say this, anytime that I see someone, and I've seen this in myself, like make this choice, like, because there always is almost like this gatekeeper. Okay. You're on the path.
Mm-hmm.
Soon for you, and he talks about this in the book, and I've seen this, there will be like a gate, a clear gate. You're already on the path you're heading towards, but there's this gate, and there's going to be this gatekeeper, and you're going to be crossing over this threshold, and it almost always involves some risk as like a test. Does he really believe in this purpose? If you do walk through this gate, and it's a little bit scary, but my experience, anytime somebody makes the choice to walk through the gate, there's like a boxing glove that comes immediately and punches them in the face, and they're like, oh my gosh, I made the wrong decision. I shouldn't have walked through this gate. Or a wave comes and crashes and ruins their ship.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, yeah, that almost is always inevitable. And so it's the great test of like, no, I know I was supposed to walk through that gate, but this is like this is the test of it. How am I going to respond?
Yeah.
Am I going to keep going? And then the miracles of your path begin to unfold. I feel like I'm right there. I feel like I know my ship has crashed. Last year, I lost every cent to my name. I lost all my money. Just recently honestly, the last 24 hours just went through something pretty difficult. And okay, it doesn't, don't be a fool and think that those have any indication that you're not on the right path.
Mm.
Now, sometimes they can mean that. That's why your experience is so important. Like, I know on a deeper level spiritually that I'm on the right path, so that when things happen, it doesn't throw me off.
Mm. It's almost kind of like a test of commitment.
100%. 100%. Dane.
The thing that comes to my mind as we're just, I don't know, I feel like the sentence that I want to say is that when we yield ourselves, like anytime someone yields themselves to like a higher purpose, like wisdom comes as a gift or like as a result of that.
Totally.
It's like the story that Ernest was talking about, but it can be painful temporarily, but long term, I feel like the gift that we receive is wisdom.
Inevitably, I believe that's totally true. Now, what's cool about you referenced Ernest stories, that was a purpose archetype.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was
because look what for example, look what happened to him right after he did exactly what he was supposed to. Yes, he felt he almost got stabbed to death. and dude, that is the natural, like, I can't tell you how that might even be a universal law just as much as the support is the inevitable, like, challenge or curse or whatever you want to call it. The enemy arrives. Okay. So again, how do I withstand this? How do I keep going? If you don't know what your purpose is, we'll talk more about this on the next one for sure. Like, how do I actually know what my purpose is? How can I feel more connected to that? But it's so important. You can't just think you know what your purpose is. It can't be intellectual. Why? So I obviously have some thoughts on this, but I want to get your thoughts. Why is it so important for somebody's purpose to be spiritually rooted? Or in other words, why is it so important for your purpose to be deeply rooted? You can't just think you know what it is or you can't just like, oh, I'm going to just try this out. You can, but what is the benefit of being spiritually rooted in your purpose?
I feel like for me, it's something that I can go back to, and every time it's the same. Like the feelings are the same, the clarity feels the same. My mind can get confused, or I can have a lot of stressful things going on, or I could be distracted or tired or whatever. But if I take the time to actually connect spiritually and ask the same questions or think through the same things around my purpose, the feelings are like an anchor that bring me back to reality almost. It like is something that I can trust that's going to be the same every time I go there.
The parable that Christ taught about is so powerful in this way. This is, again, one of my favorite stories, is he talks about the wise man who builds his house upon the rock versus the foolish man who builds his house upon the sand. The sand can be symbolic of surface thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts are constantly moving. Sand is constantly moving and easily manipulated, right? It's not solid. Rock is symbolic of like strength and confidence and truth. Something deeper. Okay. So what Christ said is, the wise man builds his house upon the rock, that when the winds come and the storm comes and all, the rains come, it does not have power to move that house. But the foolish man who builds his house upon the sand, when the winds come and the storm comes, it washes basically away the home. So our house is in a lot of ways like our purpose. It's what we're building, what we're trying to build, what a lot of people want to build. It's okay if it's on sand, but the goal obviously is to build it on rock. And so practical application of this, if your purpose is built on the sand, that means it's only solid from a place of intellect. And so thoughts can easily come. The next day, they can come and be like, are you sure that's what your purpose is?
Do you even remember? Like, are you sure?
Yeah, like you're not that good at this or this or this. Like, is this going to work? It's so easily. And then it's like, oh, it's now I don't know. Now I'm confused. So, now it's not like finding out your purpose is one giant experience that takes care of you your whole life. I have had some strong ones. And in the moment, it feels like this is it. This is all I need. I'm good. But every couple weeks, we need to be like, maybe, I don't know, once a month. I don't know. It's different for everyone, but just tapping into that, like and being guided.
Yep. I'm doing like once a week right now.
Whatever you need is, as far as the hero's purpose coincides for that which his society itself is ready. Okay, so our purpose, I'm waiting. Right now I'm in a waiting pattern with my purpose. This is a season of me to wait a little bit. And a lot of times when we have to wait, I believe that coincides with that for which the society itself is needing to be ready. I experienced this last year. I had this powerful experience about my purpose and what that looked like. And I saw a vision of that. And I was like all stoked. I'm like, it's going to happen tomorrow. I was like, just so jazzed up. And then, man, it's been a test of patience for me for sure. What's happened for me this last year, I've had to meet the right people. I've had to, develop, start collecting the right team where their vision or their life aligns with mine. That's not I'm not manipulating anything. It's just natural. You're a part of that for me. Many other people. Kimberly is. She doesn't want me to say that. But many people are part of that for me. And that's really meaningful. So anyways, I'll finish with this is society. That person seems to ride on the great rhythm of the historical process. So what does that mean? When we're following our purpose, we ride on the great rhythm of the historical process. To me, that means that this really is the way that these, like Dane said, there's a universal truth and like a faith to a manifesting of like, I'm walking it, I'm seeking answer, and it's going to happen. Like I'm going to be supported in this by Mother Nature, by God.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also on the other side. The storms are definitely coming. Just as real as the support is coming, so is the tearing down, you could say, or the attempt to tear down. So
That's interesting. The words he chose, very interesting.
Oh,
The rhythm, riding on the rhythm, that's like,
of the historical process.
right. That's like in time with what's happening. Yeah, I don't know. That's just really interesting imagery.
Our purpose can't, again, going back to the Buddhist thing, our purpose cannot be forced.
Yeah.
We can't, it's this balance of I have to do my part, and then I have to ride the wave of the rhythm and the wave of the historical process. So it's not easy to do that. It takes a lot of trust.
Some faith.
And faith in like God and in nature and these spirit guides, whatever, all of it, perhaps. So any final thoughts, Dane, Ernest?
When you said rhythm, it felt like it conjured up the image of like vibration for me too, almost as like a parallel.
Oh, that's really powerful actually, because that totally aligns.
Yeah.
With like not forcing things. Like the vibration of forcing is over masculine.
Is it Anna that talked about like lower vibrations
Mm-hmm.
and higher like operating at a higher higher plane of vibration versus lower? It's kind of a cool thought when you think about like the rhythm, the historical rhythm. Not as like a literal thing, maybe, but maybe it is. Anyway. If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.